All right, big brother. Well, here we are. Oh boy, took a little bit longer than anticipated, like everything always does. I actually went up and down and checked both these amps up, down. I'm talking about every little bitty piece of it, bud. And I don't know if these were your first two amps that you built. I know if there wasn't your first two, I know that they were your first few. I know these were your first builds, you know, either way, if it was the first, you know, first one and the second one. And I'll have to say, brother, you did a great job. I mean, just to give a super quick summary before I get into this detailed, I say about the biggest flaw that I saw was soldering. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to count that up as your technique. I'm going to count that up as your soldering gun. I think that the only problem is the gun that you're using might not be hot enough, or if you're using a variable station, that you just need to turn it up a little bit. I usually solder on about 750 to 840 degrees. I pretty much hit your whole amp with about 840 until I went to the switches. When I'm on the switches, I'm soldering about 550 degrees on the switches, so you will not damage them, because you will damage them switches pretty quick with some high heat. And I've already looked at these things pretty quick too, man. And I mean, dude, I ain't had to turn these trimmers at all, man. I mean, you got these things tuned out very nice. Whatever you, from what I've seen so far, whatever you're doing for tuning is working pretty well. At least it's worked well on these amps, because I'm not seeing any reflect. I mean, it looks good on the tuning. I have not had to mess around with the tuning at all. I would say probably the second biggest flaw that I saw was lengths of wire, meaning maybe a little bit longer lengths on certain connector, certain components and stuff like that. You know, it's not a big deal. It's just something you learn as you go. You know, what I learned, you know, the longer lengths will have more chances for stray capacitance. You want to have your leads as short as possible, dealing with RF, as short as possible. Alrighty, I'll let you just first off take a look at the preamp installation here. Go right here to the front here. Okay. This is on the one field. Alrighty. And while it's fresh on my mind, let's see if it was this amp. I think it's this amp. See this 2-watt resistor right here? If you look at it, let me see if it's this one. I think it is. It could be the 2-pill. But on one of these, you can tell where you've got the 100 ohm 2-watt pretty hot. Let me grab one. Right here, brother. These 5 watt 100 ohms I sent you. Just slap them boogers on where that 2-watt is right there. Just slap them boogers on right there where you have these 2 watts. And that'll give you a better chance, man, of them things not crapping out on you. I'm talking about these right here. Alrighty. I'm just going to kind of go through it. I'm pretty much going to start from the front and go to the back of anything that I did change. Like I said, most of the things I did is just went around and just hit your solder points, man. I didn't even have to add solder to most of them. I literally just put my gun on them and just soldered them a little better and just hit them a little harder with some more heat. I hit most of them about 800 to 840 degrees. I pretty much heated up on all the peel connections, okay? Because once you start soldering these leads on these peels to the board and these leads on these peel strips, it takes a little bit more heat because there's more solder, there's more metal to heat up because you got the transformer sitting on there, etc. So, you know, it is kind of tricky to hit it with just a little small 45 watt gun. I am using an 80 watt, by the way. So I just pretty much, a lot of it's just, I just went behind you, man, and just hit the solder points. Hey, that's how my first build was too, man. All the guy had to do was go hit the points and it was good to go. Alright, this transformer here was leaning down and kind of sitting on the board. That's not going to hurt anything because, you know, this has to be grounded anyway. But on good practice, you want to try to ground that through a choke, because that's all about your C bias in there. That's biasing it for zero bias for the C class. And I basically just kind of went back and forth and kept hitting it with heat while I straightened it up, as you can see here. To give you a method that I use for soldering my transformers. Oh, well, you can tell I've been busy, man. Look at this trash right here. Good God almighty. Well, this is a private video, so I don't care. I'll take a little piece of peel strip like this right here, and when I'm soldering the transformer the very first time, I'll kind of just sit it back because, you know, that's going to be level with this transformer. And when you do this, you know, when you glue your I'm gonna try to speed. I know I talk a lot, man. I'm gonna try to speed past this. Don't get real too detailed. You know, when you glue these, the secret of it is to try to rough up the copper up under it a little bit. Rough it up and rough up the underneath the strip, which means rough up under here and then rough up where you're soldering it to. Man, that thing will never come up, man. That's actually required by Loctite, is to rough up the surface. So that's where I got that from. But I'll just put this up under the transformer. As you see, it's fitting up under there, and I'll just sit the transformer on this and then the peel strip. Then what I normally do is I just kind of hit the solder on one side and put my iron as close to it as I can get it without touching it, and then start pouring solder till the solder finds it by itself and touches it. The second that solder touches that transformer and you see it bonding to it, take the heat away, and then you can go ahead and go to the next side, hit that iron, kind of make your iron go up the transformer so the solder drips up it, then go back to this one and then do the same. I just do that first one to hold the transformer, and then you can take this right here and move it away. Then your transformer sitting up there as perfect as it can be. Alrighty, I'm looking here and remembering things that I did. I took this 1000 right here. It just looked like it. Oh yeah. No, that wasn't that. That was actually something else. I'll tell you. This 1000, I just kind of took it off and just kind of made it a little bit more neater and soldered it on. When I solder these on, I tilt the amp up. I hike it up so that I'm soldering on with these flat perpendicular, so you're putting it on there the best way possible. I hike it up just like that right there, man, so you can get on there good and flat. Alright, now let me tell you this, man. You'll be glad I checked this out. I pretty much took a good strong piece of needle nose pliers, some strong needle nose pliers, and I went to every one of your connections and I literally just grabbed it and tried to pull it off. And that's what I do with anybody's stuff, man, to make sure everything, because sometimes it'll look like it's a good solder joint, but it's cold. When I went over here to your choke, right here, to the hot bus, I pulled that damn choke straight off that hot bus, man. It was not even soldered to it. It was just touching it just good enough to, you know, give you power of just you know, the surface of it. See, a lot of times what it is, man, is the flux will actually kind of make it stick to the solder without actually bonding, and it'll look like it's a connection, but it ain't. Buddy, I think, man, if you just get you a hotter gun, this will be a whole different experience for you, brother. A whole different experience. Cause that's the main thing I saw. You just needed a hotter gun. I just went behind you, man, hitting them points. All right, let's go to this power wire, man. These two power wires completely suck ass. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. I think you got them from me. All right. When you got these parts from me, I had purchased some power wire from Fat Boy from ICA, and I did not use the power wire till months later when I finally did run out of my other one. And this black wire right here, man, I had ordered about damn 50 foot of this black wire. I had to throw it away. There was just something wrong with it, man. I mean, that damn shit would not hold solder for nothing. It was almost impossible to get it to hold solder. I had to sit there and Dremel the hell out of that stuff, man. And I mean, it was terrible to work with. And I think both of these were those types, man. And I'm sure if you remember, you might remember having a little bit of trouble. So I had to do a little bit of special treatment to it, man. I had to take this hot wire off, and do some dremeling to it, solder, Dremel it a little bit more, and got it good and solid, man. And then put it back on. Yeah, and then I just hit that good, and of course I soldered this hot bus back on. I also soldered to the back here just to make sure it was good to go there. A lot of your solder points did look fine, like on the relay and stuff like that. Alright, man, I think this is what you might be getting confused about with the preamps, okay? Follow me real quick here. Alright, this preamp only has 4 solder points, and that's it. It's got 4 solder points. Just look at it like that. You said you didn't have a problem building the preamp circuit, and I think you said putting it on the relay. You didn't have a problem doing that. What you had a problem with was hooking it up. Alright, it's real simple, bro. If you just really follow it like this right here, it's only got 4 connect points. 2 is your hot and positive. The other 2 is your RF input and output. You got to have an RF input because that's getting the actual RF from the antenna, from the radio waves. And then it sends it through the preamp circuit and amplifies it back to your radio. So as you see, this right here, this point right here, that's your negative going to the board, okay? And then here's your positive. Okay, and all I'm doing up here up front is when this first switch is turned on, when that first switch is turned on, I'm sending power from this switch over to this switch. You see what I'm saying? Because you don't want the user to be able to turn the preamp on when this switch is off. They'll fry their preamp. They'll send RF through their preamp. They'll be keying RF through their preamp. So you want this switch to only have power when this one is on. Okay? And when that turns on, you just follow that wire this way. And it goes right here and powers the preamp right here. So pretty much what is happening when this positive hits right here, it is powering the relay and the preamp at the same time. As you see right here, this right here is the preamp. That's where it's getting power to the preamp, and then down here it's getting power to the relay. So I just got it going on twice at once. For some weird reason, X-Force and I think Fat Boy, they like to send the power wire from the hot bus over to the preamp and then have the switch going to the relay. And I'm like, you know, why in the heck use an extra wire when there's no need to, you know? But that's just their style. Alright, so you understand that, man. Just a negative and a positive. Alright, this is where you might be getting confused about, and it took me a couple of times to get this right. If you look down here on the relay, see if I can zoom in here. You look here on the relay. You see this jumper. See, that jumper is just replacing the jumper that was on this relay right here. So basically all I did was take the relay off of this relay. All I'm doing when I do that is I'm just tapping into the RF. That's all I'm doing. I'm just tapping in to the RF so I can get an RF signal. Because that the main thing is you really want to understand how these relays are working and what they're doing. This right here is just 2 of these switches right here. This relay is just 2 of these switches and 1 sitting side by side. So this relay right here is the same thing as these 2 switches together. Single pole, single throw, single pole, single throw. Together it's a double pole, double throw. This relay is a double pole, double throw. Alright, I'm going to zoom through this. We're at 16 minutes already. So this jumper on here is for when you don't have no power on it, that the RF comes in the amp, flows through that jumper, out the amp. So I'm saying, so what we're doing is we're needing to tap into that to get some RF for the preamp. So that's what we're doing. We take that jumper off. Alright, now this is what got confusing for me, that I had to learn just through trial and error. When I say the input of this preamp is right here on this side. Okay, the input of the preamp is this side right there. This is a 330, that's a 150. 330 equals input, 150 equals output. Now when I say input, we're not talking about input from the radio, we're talking about input from the antenna. From the antenna. We are amplifying radio waves from the antenna. So the input is on the left side and it hooks to the right here. Right here. It hooks right there. And this right here, as you see, right now as this amp sits right now, with this amp turned off, this leg right here is touching this leg right here on this green one. This leg is touching this leg. And this leg right here has a wire that goes to this SO239, which hooks to the antenna. Here is the flow. Watch me. Radio waves come from the antenna, go this way right here through this green wire right here to the relay. Then, since this is touching this right now, the relay is touching these 2 are touching. The RF signal goes here through this wire over to this relay, travels through the preamp circuit, comes out of the preamp circuit to this white wire right here, then travels up this white wire to right here. And since this amp's off and it's not keyed, this right here is touching this. Just like over here, this is touching this. This is touching this. Alright, now go back to over here. Like I said, coming from the antenna, when it went into the preamp and flowed through this preamp circuit, it comes out the preamp circuit. It does not go through this jumper on here. It does not go through that jumper until the preamp is turned off and the amp is turned off. Okay, so just take that jumper out of your mind. Just take that jumper out of your mind. We're talking about when the preamp is on and the amp is not keyed. You know, the amp is turned on, but it's not keyed. You know, I did say with the amp off. What I mean is the amp is turned on, but it's not keyed up. So it travels through this white wire when it comes out of the preamp and solders to here. So these are touching since the amp is not keyed. Travels through that green to that SO239 back to your radio. Alright. Now, let's say that the amp is turned off, which means the preamp is turned off. Alright. In this case, we're talking about from the antenna, RF energy comes through here. And since this right here is not keyed, even though the amp is turned off, but this relay is not keyed, it's touching this leg. So it goes to here, travels through that white wire, and this white wire goes this way to the left side over here. And since this preamp is turned off, now the legs on here is now touching this jumper right here. So the RF comes this way, flows through this jumper, and bypasses the whole preamp circuit. It does not even see this preamp circuit. All this shit on this relay, it does not see it when this preamp is turned off. Flows through that jumper, through this wire, back to this relay, which would be right here. And since this ain't keyed, it's touching this, it goes out to your radio. Alright. And as you know, man, it's pretty simple, you know by now. If I have the preamp turned on, and I have the amp turned on, of course, and then I key, when I key, these two are no longer touching. When I key this relay, instead of this touching this, now this is touching this. This is touching this. This right here is nowhere to be seen. So, since this is nowhere to be seen, the preamp is nowhere to be seen. So when you key, the RF comes from your radio. This relay clamps down. RF goes to this right here, flows through the coax to the one pill section, out of the back output transformer through this white wire right here. It's keyed, so this is touching this, touches that way, out the amp. Well, there you go, brother. I just want to go through that, and I think if you just watch that a few times, man, take some notes, you won't have no more questions about these preamps, brother. No more questions. Just remember, the 330 picofarad right here side is the input to the preamp. And for RF to be inputted into the preamp, it's got to be coming from the antenna, which would be the output of this amp. That's what makes it so confusing. Your input is coming from the output. Input's coming from the output. You see, that's what gets confusing. The output of the amp is hooked to the antenna. That's where you're getting your RF. Alright, man, let me take you over here and show you what I had to do with this ground wire, because this ground wire was terrible. And if you have any other amps using these wires, I will throw that wire away, man, quick. I will give you a link to a new wire source I found that is absolutely amazing. Alright, I'm sure you remember how this looked. It pretty much looked like the wire was sitting on top of solder, and the solder wasn't actually engulfed around the wire. That's because the wire wasn't taking any solder, pretty much. Just enough to keep it held down. Alright, the way that I had to do this, man, you can't tell. But you know the little, right here, the little coating, the shield of this small coax? I took about 4 or 5 pieces of shield from this coax and soldered it and literally laid it across the wire right here. I literally laid it across. Let's see if I can zoom in on that right there. I laid it I laid it across, like here to here, here to here, here to here, real close, so that at this point it's going to be using that shield as a heat absorber. So the solder is going to see, a solder travels to what is hot. That's what it's looking for. You don't put the solder on the object. You heat up the object and the solder runs to the object that's hot. So I literally just laid them across like that right there, like a bed, man. Just engulfed over that piece of wire. And then boom. And the reason why I did that, it just made me feel a lot better. Because now solder is sitting on top of that wire. Solder sitting up under the wire, on the side of the wire. It's just 10 times better for it to be laying on top like that than the way it was on the bottom, because that wire's just crappy. That ain't your fault, man. That ain't my fault either. It's Mr. Fat Boy's fault. Alright, brother, let me just take a quick view, and I think that's probably it for that amp. And I'll go ahead and key it just so you can see what it's doing over here on this bird meter. We'll hit it real quick with a hot radio too. And I've tested both preamps and they do work. That's something that's kind of hard to show on video. I'm going to have to get a radio sitting on top of the bench so it's easier to show that. And that meter down there is a little weird. I believe that's it, brother. I touched up right here the wires that was sitting on the 464 trimmer. I touched that up a little bit, and that's it, man. I think that's that'll do it. Alright, so let's go ahead and show you what it's doing over here. Now, I wouldn't really pay attention to this that much. I'm going to quit using this, but I will let you see what it's showing on here. We're mostly looking at bird, okay? So let's flip her on. I ain't even really worried about how much it's doing all the way down, man. We're at 26 minutes, so I need to hurry up. We got another amp to show you. So I'm going to turn that all the way up. Here's your input reflect. We are on 14.3 volts. Good. Good. Looks great, man. 1000-watt slug. Good. Good. Let's see, that is about 40 bird, man. That is actually very beautiful. Very beautiful. Good. That is very nice, man. Good. Alrighty. Just for shits and giggles, man. This thing just went AWOL on me, man. Good. 180 watts. You're right. It's just went AWOL. I'm actually just gonna turn that off, man. I'm done with that meter. That's why you don't see me using it no more. Alright, brother, I'm just gonna unhook real quick. I'm just gonna hook up we're gonna double our input. We're gonna double our input from 4 bird to 8 bird. And that is a lot of drive for this 2290, so I am just gonna do one quick key and I'm gonna back out of it. Okay. Alright. Alright, man. Quick key. Gold. Alright, there you go, man. That's about 50 to 60 bird. Good. Yep, about 60 bird. And that is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Great job on this amp, dude. Great job on this amp. That is phenomenal. I don't know what it was doing before. I didn't do no baseline test. I really should have, man, but I'm just, going as fast as I can with this, brother. I was supposed to have these out to you today. And as you see, it's at nighttime, and they did not get out today. I forgot I had a dentist appointment. Didn't even know that till this morning. And that's when I was going to work on it. So, phenomenal, man. 60 bird, 122.90. Great. Great, 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 great. All right. Let's unhook. Hook up. Now, I'm just going to kind of zoom through this, man. We are at 28 minutes. I'm already at 3.5 gigs, man. If I don't hurry up, man, I might be in trouble. Alright. Sit that over there. I'm real curious to see if this thing's going to do about 200 bird. I'm going to see 200 bird out this cat and tuck up. Bear with me, brother. All right. Here's your 2-pill. Okay. Let's take a look at that real quick. Alright, let's just get through this pretty quick. Where is my pen? Here it is. Alrighty. Alright. That kind of looked cold. I just went ahead and soldered that. Okay.